Right, I think we'll make a start because it's after 5 o'clock now. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's panel discussion from Apogee to Z series, the A to Z of tech roles for women, or anybody really. So my name is Sarah Milne, and I lead the engineering skills and community team within the Chief Technology Office at Lloyds Banking Group. And today, I'm not going to do very much, except I'm delighted to be able to chat with some of my Lloyds colleagues about their careers in technology. They will introduce themselves in a moment, but they are a diverse panel in terms of roles and experience. And we're going to discuss the wide variety of technology roles that are available. I myself have worked in technology and financial services all my career, which is quite a long time, both in the UK and in Europe. And because I started out with a degree in modern languages, then I also represent the fact that anybody can get into a career in technology. The variety of different roles has meant that I've never been bored and there's always been an opportunity to keep learning and to get stuck into new challenges. And I'm sure it's going to be the same for our panelists. So I'm going to get the panelists just to give a brief introduction, and I'm going to start with one of our lovely software engineering graduates, Serena.
So hello everyone, I'm Serena. As I said, I am a software engineering graduate. So what that means is I'm on this scheme where I do 3 different placements over 2 years, get to try different things out. I'm actually not from a software engineering background at all. I'm actually from a social science one, but always had a passion for technology and decided to pursue it as a career. Lovely to meet you all.
Thanks, Serena. Verity?
Hi everyone, I'm Verity Washington. I've worked at Lloyds Banking Group coming up for 7 years, not always in technology, but currently I am the Digital Cybersecurity Operations Lead, meaning that my team identify and prevent threats from having an impact on our digital platforms.
Thanks. And Sarah?
Hi everyone, my name's Sarah Harvey. I'm one of the senior Azure engineers within the Cloud Centre of Excellence at Lloyds Banking Group. I joined the bank 2 years ago, almost to the day, and my background is in tech, but it's been in quite a broad variety of different fields like network engineering, radars, satellite communications and stuff in the military previously. So changing to cloud was quite a shift for me, but looking forward to hearing everyone's stories.
Thanks, Sarah. So we move on to Kylie.
Hi everyone. I've worked for Lloyds for about 10 years, and it's only the past couple of years that I've got into tech. In the past year that I've been doing something, my first real tech job as a software engineer working on a project. But the group's been really good helping me reskill and get a qualification. So I work 4 days a week and go to uni as well on the apprenticeship scheme. And I'll tell you all about that later.
Okay, thank you. Steph?
Hi, my name's Steph Miller, and I've been with the bank for 4 years now. I did a psychology degree, so also not a technologist by original training, but ended up in looking at psychology of organisations and started life in Accenture, a technology consultancy. And so I've worked with a number of companies, including financial services and technology companies, and I am currently working as cloud capability and communications lead. We've got big plans in Lloyds to use cloud in the next few years, and we need to grow skills enough or fast enough to do that.
Thank you. And Ursula?
Hi everyone, I'm Ursula Dalton, Head of Infrastructure, Strategy Delivery and Connect. I have actually worked in technology all my life, and qualifications are also from technology, but worked in a number of different industries. I joined the bank actually only in January this year, working in the group CIO team.
Lovely, thank you. So that's our panelists. So you'll hear a bit more from them now, and I'm going to go straight back to Serena. So you mentioned you had a social sciences background, and then you joined our software engineering graduate scheme. So tell us how that came about and what made you go for that and what you do in your role today.
Oh, I would love to. So I always really loved technology. I'm sure loads of you on the call can relate. Whether it was like playing video games or just playing around with gadgets and even just messing around with code, I just loved it, thought it was really fun. When I got to university age, I started thinking about maybe where my career was going. I did look into some computer science degrees. I can't tell you the number of rooms I walked into being the only woman there having a look around. But regardless of that factor, I just decided it was the wrong place and time. So I went for my other passion, which was social sciences. Had an absolute blast studying it, really enjoyed it, but kept doing technology on the side. A few years passed, lockdown hit. I don't want to go into all the details, we all know what it's like. But I got really bored, decided to get into some front-end web development. Really enjoyed it. It was just good fun. I just doing it as a hobby, as a bit of a laugh. Met some amazing women through it who I worked with and got to collaborate with, who then really encouraged me to maybe start thinking about this as a career. And honestly, I've got them to thank, because if they hadn't given me the encouragement and confidence to go for it, no way I would have been in this position right now. So very grateful to those women who told me, go for it, give it a try. It doesn't matter you didn't do a hard STEM degree. Apply, see where it goes. Ended up working great. Ended up in a fantastic role here at Lloyds Banking Group. To give a bit more context to what I do now, I've gone doing a front-end web development placement where I was designing a platform to try and to encourage engineering community to come together. And I've just recently moved into a completely different role at the other end of the country, where I am working on developing back-end in Java and rebuilding our whole payment system. So it's been a great opportunity to try lots of different things. I really enjoyed it. Has it been out of my comfort zone? Absolutely. Have I really enjoyed it and learned so much? Completely.
Wow, that's great. No, and I love the fact you've moved on from one thing to another now, and you've got a third placement to come. So I'm sure that'll be different again. So that's great that the experience is going well, and we will be having some more software engineering graduates join us in September, and you guys have been the real sort of pathfinders on this. So it's great to see you enjoying it. That's fab. So I'm going to move on to Verity now. So technology wasn't your first choice either. So was it an active decision to move to technology from human resources and now to operations? What kind of helped you decision making along the way?
I think for me, so I started out in HR because I was fresh out of university and I didn't really know what jobs existed. I don't think you kind of appreciate the scale of organisations when you come out of university unless you've ever worked there before. And I knew I liked people, so I thought I'd go and work in HR, how most people do. But then when I got there, naturally you see what's going on, you think, oh, it seems quite cool over there. I remember we had a kind of digital function at the time and it was, a couple of hundred people, but obviously there was technology everywhere. But now I think technology is just, you can't escape it. I don't think I actively decided to work in technology, but I think for a lot of people, that's where our careers are heading. And when I hear people talking about things, I'm naturally quite inquisitive. So I thought, there's this cloud qualification going on over here. Let's give it a go. Why not just throw your hat in the ring and have a go with it? I still would say that if someone said to me, are you passionate about technology? I don't think I would say I am. I was thinking about this and being joined to this panel, unless it's broken, why try and fix it? I'm not a Kindle person, I'm a hardback book, but you have to embrace, what technology can do for us now. So, I'm kind of gone into it accidentally, but love it now.
Great. No, and I think that's part of the nuances between, there'll be some people who are really into the, into the coding, and we heard from Serena, my coding days were very limited, but there was always lots of other roles, from managing large projects to business analysis to, then doing the work I do within skills. It's a variety, isn't it? And often we sort of get a slight imposter syndrome where we think, oh, well, I'm not really a technical person, but we are really. So it's yes, really interesting to hear that. And Kylie, coming to you then, so your decision to move from kind of PA work to a software engineer sounds like a really bold move, and not one we always hear, but I think it's great that you've done that. You know, banking isn't always a natural choice for a tech career. So tell me a little bit how you got inspired to move into a more technical role.
Yeah, you're right. You don't usually put banking together with tech, especially when you're on the outside looking in. Because I joined the bank about 10 years ago. It was a completely different role. If you had told me I would end up as a software engineer, I would have been gobsmacked. I would never have believed anyone. But I had lots of different roles in that time. And then when I was a PA, I got moved into an engineering area through a restructure. And I was at the point where I thought, all right, I know I didn't want to be a PA, and I was looking about for what I wanted to do, and I didn't rule anything out. And I never in a million years thought I would want to do tech. I never thought I was a techie person. I never thought I could do it. I didn't think I would like it. But then I just went around chatting to people, shadowing, just investigating different jobs and just being so curious. And as I said, not ruling anything out, that was the key thing. And then I kept coming back to the same thing. I went, right, I want to do what they do. The software engineers, and when I saw code for the first time, it was front end and web development stuff that I saw. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I thought it was like magic. I had the most amazing feeling. I know that sounds cheesy as anything, but it's so true. And I thought, right, well, that's it then. I need to do that job. I need to make it happen. So I went on a wee mission. And where
did you start with? What sort of languages did you start with?
Front end, HTML, CSS. I know programmers in the audience might say that they're not programming languages, but I think when you're a complete beginner, they're more accessible and a bit easier to learn than jumping straight into anything on the back end. So I did start with that, and I did lots of just online tutorials, YouTube. I was on YouTube all the time. And there's a lot of meetup groups as well that I took advantage of, and went to some internal to Lloyds called WeCode. That was a really good group, and an external one called Code Bar. So I went along to them. Well, they were face-to-face at the time, but I just did everything I possibly could to learn and just keep going, and network as well, just get to know the right people, and then make myself known and just tell everybody what I wanted to do, and just keep telling them. So when opportunities came up, they went, we know this person, she's really keen, look what she's doing to try to help herself. So yeah, opportunities came eventually. It took a while, it was really frustrating, but I was determined to do it. So
well, it's definitely paid off. No, I think that's a real nugget there, Kylie. I think somebody once gave me that advice, that as if you want a job, tell somebody that you want the job, because often that you say, oh yeah, I'd really like to do that job, you don't actually tell anybody. And I remember doing that maybe about 6 or 7 years ago now. I saw a job, like I went and spoke to the person, I'd like a job in this team, but they had no idea that's what I would want to do. And I think it's kind of such a simple thing, and sometimes we overlook just saying, I'd like to work in your area, I really like what you're doing.
I think that's a really scary thing to do, but it's a really important thing to do. Because I remember when I decided I was like, I'm going to tell people, I'm going to make this public, and I was still a PA, and I was a bit scared. I thought they might laugh at me, they might think I can't do it. What if I can't do it? Then I'll be embarrassed and all this stuff. But that just went out of my head, and I just became so determined. I mean, I don't care what anybody thinks, I'm doing this, and you really that's a big part of it. Then it gets in your own mind and your own psyche, and
you are doing it, which is absolutely awesome. That's brilliant. Okay. Thank you. Sarah, you mentioned in your introduction that you've been in lots of different tech, not banking tech. So from the RAF to financial services, that's quite a move, yeah?
Quite a leap. Yeah, I never pictured when I was getting ready to embark on like a second life effectively, that I would end up in financial services or banking or anything like that. It never occurred to me before. But I think when I left, I was looking for some stability and the flexibility, and there's so many different careers in tech that can offer that. I was trying to find something that would work around my young family. So on one of the rare nap times when the twins were asleep, I was madly Googling away, thinking, right, are there any part-time sort of upskilling courses that can get me back to a job in tech? Because I'm sick of talking to people who can't form sentences yet, and just talking about baby stuff. I need to get my brain back in the game.
You had twins, didn't you? Have you got twins?
Yeah, I had a two at the time. I had I had a 2-year-old and I had 6-month-old twins at the time. So I was starting to look at a way back for me, effectively. They're amazing, obviously, but nursery was going to be expensive. So I needed to find something that paid the bills and could maybe flex a little bit around the family. And after lots of searching online, I stumbled across a company called Tech Returners, who offer a way back to people who have backgrounds in tech and just upskill them in effectively full stack development. They teach you, give you a good overview and everything. They talk about, agile methodologies, things like that I'd never heard of previously. And just over 3 months, they basically give you this grounding, and at the end of it, you do a big presentation of a project that you've put together with the other members of your team. So you do, effectively put together a website or an app or different things and show how you came about it, the processes you went through. And then after that, then the companies who have sponsored the places get to offer you interviews for proper jobs. And I applied for all of them because, I think I need to hedge my bets. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if anyone would want me, but I thought I'll say yes to everything. If they offer me an interview, I'll go for it. And I had an interview with a lady called Hannah from Lloyds. And Sarah, Hannah, take you very well. You probably know her as well. She's fantastic. She's left the group now, but she interviewed me, and we just got on like a house on fire. She seemed to think that I had the right kind of background and just the fault finding, problem solving, determination, just wanting to make things work and figure problems out, which is what a lot of tech is anyway. And so she offered me a job as an infrastructure engineer in her team in platform engineering. That was 2 years ago. We've moved around a little bit. There's been different reshuffles within cloud. And it's been amazing, a very steep learning curve, because I've never really thought about the infrastructure side of how cloud would put together, and now I'm in a brilliant role where we do like new features that are coming into the bank. Different teams will request, right, we need to be able to do this. How can we do this? So we effectively take like Azure products off the shelf, Lloydsify them so that they meet our obviously strict guardrails and security measures, and put together solutions for the different teams within the bank to be able to do what they need to do. So it's been immense. It's absolutely blown my mind. But yeah, I'm now a senior Azure engineer, which is not where I thought I would be 2 years from starting off in cloud and coding. So yeah, I've got a lot to thank a lot of people in the bank for, because it's an amazing environment for learning. Everyone's been dead supportive, and I've got some incredible mentors, whether they realize they're my mentors or not, but I have. But yeah, that's me really.
Yeah, well, no, it's a fantastic journey, and I think what you touched on there around attitude and aptitude, we know that tech is a really competitive marketplace for jobs right now, so we're looking for those those qualities, that sort of outlook and attitude. They will carry you so far in your role, and you showed those in an absolute bucket load, so you could see why that you were going to be a great fit for us. But of course, as a bank and as a large employer, we can offer that flexibility to working mums like yourself, and that's something that's very important. I felt I was a bit of a pioneer 20 years ago when I asked to go part-time, and I kind of got some funny looks, and I got asked quite a lot at that time, when are you coming back full-time? I don't think you could be able to do this job part-time. And then about a couple of months after I'd gone part-time, my boss said, you've changed my mind about what I thought about part-time working. And that felt like a super result at the time, because yeah, some of us had to sort of clear the path for others to follow, and I'm glad I was able to do that.
Amazing.
So Steph, coming to you. So you came different route again. We're getting all the different backgrounds today. I just think it's fascinating. You come by the consultancy route. You mentioned you were with a consultancy, and now you're leading our work on the sort of cloud skills agenda, doing a lot around communication. And people might think at the, at sort of face value, well, do you know how tech conversant do you need to be to do that sort of work? But it's a tech role, right? You're on mute still, Steph.
Yeah, so very much a tech role, and I think you do need to understand both what people are doing and how they're doing it, as much as the language that's used around a lot of the discussions that are had, in order to be able to have the conversations and understand what the skills gaps are in the first place in order to fill them. So for example, Sarah mentioned that she's busy Lloydsifying a lot of the technology, so it's not just a question of people understanding or colleagues understanding how the technology works, it's how it's been applied at Lloyds Bank and how the different people working within Lloyds Bank in their different roles, not just engineers, but other people that are supporting that, understanding what it is that they need to do to be able to support the effective and safe use of the technology. And so it's really complex and challenging, and that's why it's really interesting to be able to understand those things and then bring it together into a way that for each of the different kind of colleagues that is interested and needs to understand can pick that up. I suppose when I first started my career in a tech consultancy, the first thing that they did was to put us onto C++ training for 6 weeks, no matter what role we were doing, even though I've never done anything since then. And C++ probably dates me with my age quite considerably. But just in the fundamentals of understanding, how does development work? How do you kind of build the code, test the code, deploy the code, the most basic fundamentals of those things, and having that understanding, gives you that kind of fundamental understanding of then how it all works and who might be doing and interacting with the technology. And then of course there's the language itself and understanding how all of that works, and some of that you can pick up reasonably quickly and easily just by listening and being interested and doing some training. But I think apart from anything else, and in my experience of having been at different organisations, a lot of it is organisation specific as much as it is tech specific, and that's definitely the case at Lloyds Bank. I mean, there's an ongoing joke about the number of 3-letter acronyms and all sorts or the same 3-letter acronyms that can mean lots of different things, quite aside from the tech itself and how that is talked about. Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We work with the skills and the capability, but you do soak up a lot of the language and understanding, and then become quite, familiar with the tech just from the day-to-day interactions. So it's definitely a tech role. So finally, moving on to Ursula, our newbie. So tell us a little bit about your previous roles, but also the work you're involved in promoting diversity, because I think that's tech's a great diverse place for anyone to work.
Definitely, Sarah. It's quite interesting listening to Steph, because I started my career in tech as a C++ software engineer, Steph. So there you go. Yes, so I come from very much of one of those traditional, I did my first degree in tech, so very much of a STEM degree, going into becoming a C++ software engineer, and actually all the roles I've held are tech roles. But one of the interesting things is, I think although I started from that STEM career, degree, to being an engineer, I actually diversified slightly. So I thought it's like being only tech is not really going to give me that full view or full understanding of delivering what the business wants. So I really decided I'm going to combine the two. I went and did an MBA because I wanted to really understand the business language as well. And that opened lots of doors to go into program management and so on, and actually go into senior positions. So and also move into a number of different organizations. So I started my career in actually automotive, and then moved to, I even worked for Cadbury Triple Bassett, so moved into that, field. And then I worked in financial services to higher education. And the last 6 years, I was actually a CIO, CTO in one of the non-for-profit organizations. So I think it's that opportunity of, when you're in tech, you're not constrained to doing one thing. You can do lots of things, and it opens loads of doors. And that's the beauty of tech, and that's what I really like. And hence the reason diversity is one of those core areas I'm really promoting all the time, because it's not only getting women into tech. It's not, it's such a wide area. It's also encouraging the youngsters to people that we're recruiting at the moment to come from diverse backgrounds, like, education to experience, as we've been discussing now. So if I look at the challenges when we look at diversity, a couple of the things are the perception and very much the lack of role models, because we always think to get into tech, you have to be from a STEM background, you have to be very much tech savvy. Actually, you don't really have to, because looking at me, I started from that STEM background, but I thought, I need to get that diverse, understanding business language. So it works both ways, and you need to have both, I think, in lots of ways. And also role models. It's doing lots of sessions like what we do now, showing the others that, there are so many opportunities. If we can do it, you can do it too. And we have to really show that to the youngsters as well. So we create that pipeline of talent coming into the field. So I think that's what I'm really passionate about. And I take the whole ethos. If I can do it, you can do it too. And there's so much of support out there.
That's great. Yeah. And I think diversity for us as an organisation, I think, 10, 15 years ago, people moved around the financial services sector, but now we're seeing much more diversity of people coming from different backgrounds into financial services, and it brings with it a real richness of experience, and it brings some great new perspectives. And I think so the days of just kind of rolling between the big four banks as kind of passed, and we get a much richer experience as a result of it. And of course, anything diversity wise, we need to embrace it, because our massive customer base in the UK is incredibly diverse. So as a workforce, we need to reflect that, don't we?
Definitely.
So those are great answers. I just love the variety there. So I'm going to just move into just kind of throw a question out there and see if anybody wants to sort of give their take on it. So we've talked about moving from non-tech roles into tech roles, and vice versa. Have you kind of got some strategies that you would share around how you get up to speed in that? So I'll give you a little bit of thinking time. So I think when I've moved into more technical roles, I've definitely gone down the find myself a mentor route first and foremost. So when I took this role in engineering skills, I went and had coffee with as many engineers as I could talk into having a coffee with me, just to kind of work out what their pain points were, what were their education needs, what was the sort of skills direction. So I think my strategy is to find people on the ground to talk to and do a lot of listening. So I don't know, maybe Verity looks ready with an answer. Verity, what would your strategy be?
I think for me, it's the same as trying to learn anything. So I think there is this perception that everything technology is extremely complex, but it's just the same as if you were trying to learn any subject, but it's just got new words. So I think rationalising that in your own mind is really important. And then thinking about how do you individually learn things. So for me, I don't learn, this is I'm going back, I'm going to create a terrible perception of myself here that I don't, use technology, but I learn through books rather than videos. So for me, I get books, I make notes on the books, then I try and explain something to someone else. So I think my like superpower is creating an analogy for any technical concept and just relating it back to everyday life. So if I can do that and I can explain a concept to someone else, if you find someone friendly who knows the topic themselves, try and explain it back to them and just check your understanding and go through like that. So I think that's what works for me, but I don't know about other people on the panel. How do you learn things, and what would your tips be?
Shall I go with this one? I take tech to be one of those things where it's changing all the time. So when you're in your learning journey, you're never there. So it's one of those things. It's like you're constantly learning, and I learn from practically everybody. It doesn't matter who in your team, or actually, as we were saying, our customer base is so, wide range, so diverse. We are constantly learning from them as well, because in order to actually give the tech solutions we have to give them, we need to really understand what our customers think, how they interact with us, to how we can really apply the technology. So it's actually being really knowledge hungry and really taking that mindset of let's constantly learn, let's constantly understand the people that we are working with and the people we are serving. So it's not just learning tech as such, it's learning everything that goes with it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think, we're soaking it up all the time, really, and any interactions. I mean, it's different now. I mean, we do so much online, but I used to just in the past go and stand around in my local branch and hear what customers were saying and asking for, and problems that they were dealing with, and just try and get that perspective of what were our frontline colleagues dealing with, because sometimes we get a little bit further removed from that. So there's lots of opportunities to sort of learn more that way.
I think
any other strategies anybody has for getting up to speed in a role, Steph?
I was going to say, I think, I just reflect back on the curiosity thing. I think just asking and being interested and all of those things. But I think, often, we kind of think, or I've thought of like something as a big step to kind of bridge, and I think it's the breaking down of that for me into smaller chunks that really helps it feel less scary and be more manageable. So sometimes, especially if I, used to get kind of chucked onto some project in the middle of somewhere that was nowhere near home, I used to kind of think, oh my goodness, I'll never be able to do this. And then someone said to me once, just break it down into 2-week chunks. Just break it down into 2-week chunks and think about what you need to do just in the next 2 weeks. And I think breaking it down like that, kind of has really helped me and learning bit by bit, rather than trying to kind of save it all up for a particular week or a particular day. It's just kind of taking it chunk by chunk that's really helped to make it less intimidating, I suppose.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say I totally agree with that. I do that all the time. Every morning, I think about what do I need to know, and then I'll actually write it down in my notepad, even if it's the tiniest little thing, or who do I need to know this, and then just keep chipping away at it, because you can get lost in the minefield of all the different resources and people, and the excitement of just wanting to know everything. But just calm down. Small, manageable chunks.
Yeah, and I think it's okay not to know some things as well. I've got another colleague who always says, "I don't know that yet," and I think that's a really good way of saying it, because we're always learning, and you don't necessarily have all the answers at once. So I don't know that yet, I think is a great phrase. So we're talking about learning. Tech is a fast-paced environment to work in. We know that, and a lot of us learn kind of day by day. How do you prioritize learning in your role, and for you, if you've got people in your teams as well, how do you kind of role model on that to help them learn? Because it's a really hard thing. We're balancing the delivery of the work and prioritizing the learning. Sarah, if I come to you, because I mean, you're balancing learning, you've got your new role, You've got 3 small children. That's a lot of juggling. How do you fit the learning in?
Sacrifice all self-care. No, that's not what you should do. That's what generally happens, but no. I think what I've had to do is be quite organised about it. I mean, my team have been really good about it, and we've actually acknowledged that everyone is so busy all the time that we have a scheduled learning hour now on a Friday morning where people can focus and try and get some of their own personal development learning done. And that's a scheduled time, so no one's going to put in meetings with them during that time, so you can actually focus on it. And again, sometimes like over lunch hours, or if we've got a particular task that I've got to understand, I will just block off and focus time so I can sort of deep dive into the documentation, maybe spin up some labs to have a test of how things might work, because we have a lot of development labs and we can either use the work ones, or we also have like a Microsoft subscription that we can use on our personal devices to sort of try and understand concepts and spin up test environments to before we actually do a proof of concept in a work environment. We do it that way to try and understand the workings of each thing. So I think it's just trying to be use little blocks of time, because you're never going to say, I'm going to take a day and do this, because you'll get distracted, and a day is not necessarily achievable for everybody, but an hour here, an hour there, just to help you sort of understand little bits bit by bit. Or if I've got an exam that I'm studying towards, then I'll do the same. And my manager's quite good. He's like, well, just block out another bit of time during the day. I'm okay for you to focus on this, because we know that we're going to benefit from your increased knowledge once you've got the certification. So we're really good like that. And I think it's just not trying to do too much at once and just making your own notes. I learn by doing, so I find the practical labs and the practical elements and having a go at it myself the best way of doing it. And like from the last question, say yes to everything. Even say, can you have a go at this? Or do you know how to do this? And like you said, not yet, I don't know it yet. I always just try and say yes to any opportunities, because obviously I'm starting from normally not knowing much about that particular thing. But if you just say yes, then just by having a go at it and failing and working out why it's failing, that's how I learn the most. So yeah, definitely not an expert in much, but willingness to have a go and willingness to get it wrong is how I learn.
That whole experimentation culture is really, really important. That's why we organise so many hackathons as well within the bank, for colleagues to sort of get stuck in and build something and just learn by doing, because it really can make a massive difference. I know we've got one of our hackathon events coming up next week, and I know that some of the colleagues there will say how much they learnt just doing something for a day, just like doing it, building something in a day. They've learnt way much more than if they'd just been kind of watching the videos or whatever. So yeah, it's interesting to see how you do that and use the labs as well. Serena, you must have had to learn quite a bit.
Yeah, I would
any
love
techniques?
to build on. Yeah, no, I'd love to build on Sarah's point, because it really resonated really strong for me. And I can tell you about one of the first times starting this new job, and when I actually had a real breakthrough with my job and like getting stuck in. I won't lie to you, it's nerve-wracking at first. You go in, it's totally overwhelming. You don't know what's going on, what's the technology, what the coding language is. It can be really intimidating at first. And I won't lie, I was intimidated and a bit overwhelmed for a little while. But what really got me through it was picking up this ticket, giving it a go. And I'll be honest with you, I absolutely broke it. I don't know what I did. I absolutely tried something. It went completely wrong. I was trying to fix it frantically, kind of figured out how the code works and managed to patch it back up. Next day, went to my line manager going, I don't know what I did. I tried fixing it. I learned what this bit did, so I fixed this bit, but I'm still not sure about that. We went away, we sat together. They taught me the bits that I hadn't quite figured out how to work out. They'd explained to me the bits that I'd sort of started to figure out and how to put together. And it was fundamentally one of the best experiences I had at work, and it really clicked for me then, like, oh, watching videos helps, doing your own little projects helps, learning the theory helps. Well, actually really what clicked for me is just giving it a go, breaking it a bit, not being afraid of that, because at the end of the day, you can always press reset. It's not that scary. and just figuring out by trying and learning and not being scared of getting it wrong. So what I would take from that is 3 main points is, firstly, every opportunity is learning. It might not just be sitting down reading the book. It can just doing a day-to-day task. You can learn so much. Secondly, that it's okay if your learning comes from failure. It's not like school where you're graded and have to get A's and everything to keep your grade average. You can learn a lot through failing, and that's okay at work, and that's okay in your personal life, and that's okay when you're learning tech. And thirdly, getting a good mentor, someone who is willing to sit down and go, it's okay, you made these mistakes. We'll figure it out together and maybe make the system so no one else makes these same mistakes again. So those are the 3 main things I'd say when considering learning, especially if you are undergraduates and students moving into the workplace.
Absolutely, and we've got to provide that psychological safety just to make those mistakes, and that's really important part of our culture, to understand that, you know, we fail fast and then we go again. So I'm really glad you've been able to experience that firsthand.
Sarah, can I just come in on, you asked a question about, you know, making and setting an example, I think, for your team to learn. And I know, you know, people block out time in the diary and things like that. I think one of the really interesting scenarios I found myself in was I was already in a leadership position when I moved into technology. So I immediately went into working in cybersecurity and line managing a team of 12 men who were kind of ages 30 to 60. Which, when you've never worked in a technology role before and you've never been a line manager before, is quite like the compressed opportunity. But it was really interesting because I think there's some people view it as an expectation of, if I'm in a leadership position, I go to a leadership position, I have to know the most about this situation. So to go to technology, do I need to start again and learn everything from scratch? Like, do I need to be the expert? Whereas I very much kind of from day one said, I'm good at leadership, like that's my skill set. You're really good at everything you do. We're all, you know, subject matter experts in the bits that we're bringing to this team. So let's all learn from each other. And it kind of immediately like set the tone of that kind of democracy of someone knows the most about this and someone knows the most about this. And I think I'll always do that now because it just worked really well, just to be open with people in, I don't know it, I know some other stuff that you might find useful to learn, so let's all try and upskill each other.
So that's brilliant. I mean, I once did that. I once had a team, like when I got them together for the first time, we kind of just initiated this sort of, because I couldn't sort of see what they had in common really, other than they had me as their line manager. And we got them to do like almost like a swap shop exercise where they said the things that they were strong at and things they struggled with. And then somebody else kind of went, oh no, I know about that. So and then before you know it, you kind of get all these sort of cross connections across the table and everything. Oh yeah, I could do with some help on that, but I know about that. And then it kind of all works, doesn't it? So you get that kind of knowledge sharing culture, which is really cool. I'm conscious we might have some questions waiting for us. I go over to Brian. Have you got some questions come in on the chat?
Hi there. Yes, we do. Just bear with me 1 second.
I did see some popping up. I didn't always read them as
yeah. So there are a few kind of comments coming in. So Lisa said, has anybody used a mentor? Anybody good experiences there they could share?
I can actually. I'm a strong believer that you got to have a mentor because, you know, you tend to have mentors and coaches, but when it comes to career progression and all that, it's really important to have mentors. I found, especially the last few years, I've had an internal to the organization mentor as well as external to the organization mentor. So because I think they play slightly two different roles. And I found it quite useful, and they are complementary, but it's having those mentors. It's because internal to the organization, they become more like a sponsor in lots of ways, and, you know, the mentor, and they help you navigate in the organization and the career progression and all those things. But that external to the organization mentor gives that kind of really wider, you know, view of things, and their guidance and all that is not really constrained with that organizational view. So that's something I found really useful, and that's one of the reasons actually I joined Lloyds Banking Group as well. It is because, like, you know, through the advice of a mentor and all that, it's for that career progression. So I'm a big advocate of mentors.
Yeah, I've had a mentor in the early days, in the beginning, when I was just kind of thinking, I really want to do this, but can I do this? What will people think? I don't know if I'm good enough, blah, blah, blah. And I had a mentor who was actually my line manager at the time, and he was just amazing. Every time I got scared, I'd run back. No, I can't do it. I'm not doing it, but you go. And he just gave me so much good advice and encouragement, and it was like really, really important in my journey. So I do think it's yeah, a great thing to have if you're lucky to find someone that you need to get on with them as well, but it's good to have an objective view as well. That wee person on your shoulder just telling you things. And now I find myself, I'm speaking to anyone, giving them advice, I give them the advice he gave me. I'm like, I've turned it to him.
To jump on Kylie's point, I think that highlights the point that you need not only like a technical mentor, someone you can go to about, oh, what tech should I be looking at? Where's my career at? What resources should I use? It really helps to also have a soft skills mentor. It doesn't even necessarily need to be someone in the tech space, but someone who can support you with things like career growth, confidence, public speaking. These are things you also need in a tech career. So when looking for a mentor, don't worry, it doesn't have to necessarily be a senior software engineer. It can just be someone who offers you something that you can learn from, and hopefully you can also teach them something as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The mentor I was speaking about there, he wasn't in tech at all. Nothing to do with tech whatsoever. But he was really important in my journey to get into tech, and it was all about soft skills, positive thinking, motivational stuff like that.
Great.
Thank you. So Lisa has another question. I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit. Hope you don't mind, Lisa. So Lisa says technology isn't static and there's always forward momentum. And how do you kind of navigate that? How do you anticipate what's on the horizon and you know, it's crucial for you to know and understand?
I think I'm going to take the easy option early in my career to do that sort of things, but I'm in a team of experienced people, so I follow experienced people, and there's people in the organisation that obviously know what they're doing, and definitely in your team. So I take a lot of advice and watch what other people are doing, see what jobs they've got and stuff like that.
I mean, I think as an organisation, we have to be very transparent about where we're going from a technology perspective, and internally share our technology strategy, so that there is a clear North Star of where we're heading, and then everything else sort of follows in the wake of that, and you can see where we're going, and it's then about how you get on board with those skills and then the opportunities that we then need to create, so you to put those skills into practice. And Ursula, I know you're a big fan of sort of people getting skills and then trying them out and sort of rotating around different jobs as well. It's a good way of then taking those into sort of practice, right?
Definitely. I think, Sarah, we are very much involved in the actually capability mapping and mapping those skills for the future trends of the, you know, the technology future trends. I think because, as we said earlier, it's like tech is moving so fast. So we have to constantly actually understand, right, what is that direction of travel we're taking as an organization? But sometimes just because the outside tech is moving so fast, we as an organization might not be ready. So we have to, as like, you know, employees, see how are we going to really take the organization in this tech change, you know, journey. And that's where we have to really upskill ourselves and upskill our teams to really go on the journey. And it's really interesting.
And you know, it's definitely something that we're constantly updating when it comes to the cloud capability agenda. I mean, never a day stops when we're not, you know, becoming aware, and it's not always from the strategy. Sometimes it's a bit left field of a new thing that's kind of being used and come in, and that's also kind of speaks to the importance of sharing and collaboration. It's not necessarily formal training, it's just being connected with what's happening across in different areas of the organisation, and sharing different ways of doing things on an informal basis, not just a formal basis. So I think that's something that we're very tapped into, certainly from a skills and community perspective.
Definitely, and this concept of self-serving the information you need as well, which it's kind of pivoted a little bit from we will tell you what you need to know about, I need to know something, where do I go and find it, much more of the narrative.
And making it available, almost like a knowledge exchange for the organisation. Can we put it online somewhere where other people can all access it?
And comment on it and things
aspirational
like that.
in some
to give a practical example from a team, actually, we're moving an application to the cloud, but there's one senior engineer that's kind of looking at that in the minute. But the first thing he did, he goes to the Cloud Centre of Excellence with all their resources. What have they done? What can we learn from them? And then he will become the expert, and then it'll filter down into the team. So yeah, definitely resonates with everything you said there. Sharing knowledge.
The role of community within the engineering population really, really strong, because we're a large organisation with 3,000 engineers, and therefore, we need to have those community mechanisms, because you can guarantee you're not the only person facing into something. There'll be somebody out there who's got there first and maybe a bit further ahead with it, others that need helping along the way. So that's the power of the community there.
I totally agree, because we're on a project at the moment, and I'm trying to come up with a way to do something, and it has been done once before, but not for the exact same solution that we need. So I'm doing exactly that. I'm searching through other teams' technical documentation to pick out bits that might be relevant and useful that I can learn from, or they've tried this, or they did this but for that reason, but that wouldn't work. So it's exactly what you just said. It's using like the pathfinders that have gone before and learning from their knowledge and seeing if we can apply it, just to save some time and effort, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel over and over again if someone's already documented it and said what works and what doesn't. So yeah, exactly that. The knowledge is there to be shared.
An internal Google.
Exactly.
We might have to do. Sorry, I was just going to say we have to do a similar thing in the cyberspace, because it's quite cyber. You always have to try and be one step ahead. So you always want to try and predict how a technology could be used before anyone's actually used it. So that can be quite interesting, and kind of actually just keeping on top of different ways that different technologies are being used for things. So even thinking, a lot of people have become aware of things like deep fakes as an example, but they were used for all sorts of things before anyone thought about actually using them for a crime. So you've got to kind of try and apply things ahead of time and try and respond to that, which can always be interesting in the cyberspace. But we do a lot of knowledge sharing and kind of threat modelling as well.
Sort of on this idea of knowledge sharing, literally my previous placement was all about building an engineering community. I briefly touched on it, but the whole idea is that we're building this thing called inner source now. Some of you may have heard of open source, which is this idea that everyone can contribute and build on a software. It's free to use. Inner source is a similar concept, but internally to the bank. And why we're doing it is to help problems like this. So we can put our code out there. We can say, hey, this is our solution. Come work with us on it. Come build on it. And it was a really great project, because you got exposed to so many people's different work and different ideas. It helped people bring a project in and then find new people to work with and help it evolve in a whole new way. So from an internal business, it was an absolute joy, but externally in your own lives, I would really encourage you to get involved in technology communities that interest you and build stuff collectively and together and share knowledge, because you just become richer for it, knowledge-wise and networking-wise.
Brian, have we got any more questions?
Well, I had one or two myself. There are no more in the chat, but I did have one or two. So one I had for Serena, first of all, was so you've made that transition from social sciences into engineering. What was the toughest part of that learning curve that you had to overcome to become an engineer?
That's a good one. Because I'm going to, it's not, I won't lie to anyone on the call, it's a tough journey. It's not easy. You have to be really determined and passionate about it to go for it. The hardest bit for me was actually what I alluded to earlier, which was the whole journey of learning how to fail and learning that it's not a bad thing. I think you come in and you really want to prove yourself. You want to go, I don't come from a tech background, but I can still do this. I've got this. But there are times where you're not going to understand it and you're not going to do it right. And that's okay. No one's expecting you to get it perfectly right the first time. No one's expecting you to fully understand. And sometimes actually the only one who's expecting you to fully understand is yourself. You're putting this massive pressure on yourself to understand these things. When you have to give yourself a bit of patience, you're going to a whole new area. It's okay if you mess up sometimes and you fail. But the more important thing you can do is afterwards go ask questions, gain knowledge, figure out how to not do that again and improve your working for next time. So that's been the real learning curve for me. It's okay if I fail. It's okay if I don't know things. Ask questions, get help, learn.
Thank you. And one for the panel. So this weekend we're going to be attending the Athena Hackathon in London, and we've got the opportunity to speak to lots of women who are in their early careers or just starting out in their careers. So what's the one big piece of advice you'd give people at that stage in their career? I'll just throw that open to anybody on the call.
What, just starting out in their career, do you mean?
Yeah, so a lot of the attendees at the hackathon will be either in their early careers in the first few years, or they might be undergraduates who are about to start their first job. Yeah, so what's the kind of one big piece of advice you might give them about working in technology?
I'd say maybe don't worry about wherever you start is not going to be necessarily where you finish, because you can go through so many different guises of jobs over your lifetime. It doesn't really matter where you start, as long as you start somewhere. Everything is a learning experience, and you'll find that one thing might lead to another, might lead to another, and something totally different. Like there's that brilliant book, is it The Squiggly Career? You know, I'm sure you get lots of nodding heads. Amazing. And it just shows that, you know, what path you start off at doesn't need to be where you end up at. You can have so many twists and turns and changes, and that's fine. That's what life is. Don't be worried about starting, because this doesn't have to be the be all and end all, really. That's probably what I would say.
That's great, because that's absolutely the opposite advice I was given when I was leaving school, which was, you know, you need to plan out your career for the next 40 years and think about where you're going. And, you know, everybody asks the question, where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years? And I think that's become less and less relevant over the years.
Definitely.
That's great.
I totally second Sarah, because I'm one of those people who've had a proper squiggly career, and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, definitely. Brian, I think we're going to time out. I know Alex from Showcode wants to say a few words, but I do want to just thank the really awesome panel who turned out to be super awesome. So thanks to Serena and Verity, Steph, Sarah, Kylie and Ursula for taking the time out for sharing your stories this afternoon. Alex, over to you.
Yeah, thank you all very much. I think that, I mean, you've nailed it there, Sarah, at the end. I think with the thank you to everyone, that was the biggest thing for me, really, is, you know, it's always great having you guys as part of this. Like I say, the session at last year's Athena was one of our most popular, and I'm sure this will boot as well. So super inspiring. Thank you, everyone. And I think it's a great piece of advice to leave everyone on about the kind of squiggly career path, because if you'd have told me when I was 18 that I'd be organising hackathons, I would have I'd have frowned at you. So yeah, I think that's good, and hopefully we can kind of encourage a few people into a career in tech this weekend. But if you have any questions, let us know on Discord, and we hope to see you A, for the rest of the week, and B, at the weekend for the hackathon. Thank you all very much.
Hackathon.